Hello, this is Artemis_anime, and today I am reading Chapter 19, The New Teacher of Viridian by Silver Mist Anime Lover. I hope you enjoy! Shota sighed when Viridian joined him on the rooftop. It had only been a couple days since they learned of his true identity, and he now found himself wondering if the kid ever slept. You've got school tomorrow. So do you, Viridian chuckled. Remember our bet? You didn't guess my identity before I revealed it, so I get to keep doing exactly what I've been doing all along. He paused for a moment. Besides, I can handle patrols just fine, so long as I'm not taking over your crappy patrol schedule on top of everything else. Shota winced. When he'd asked Viridian to take his patrol schedule in the aftermath of USJ, he'd assumed the man had no day job. He certainly hadn't realized that he was a UA student. Fine, but do you know what you're going to do about the internships? They'll be announced tomorrow. I was thinking of interning Midoriya with Viridian. Shota stared at him, incredulous. You can't intern with yourself, he started slowly, causing the vigilante-turned hero to laugh. Watch me. Problem child. He shook his head. This wasn't worth arguing about. Viridian would do what Viridian wanted. Nothing Shota said or did would stop him when his mind was set to something. Are we doing this patrol or not? Come on! Viridian turned towards the south side. We'll start over here tonight. He hummed in thought as they gracefully leapt from one rooftop to the next. If not me, then who do you recommend? I have to stay near Hosu in case something happens. Other than Ida, I get the feeling something else happened. I can't remember what, though. Hopefully it's nothing important, Shota grimaced. Knowing Viridian's luck, it was something major. It was still so strange to know this person, beside him was from the future, legally, according to Nezu. Apparently there was actually paperwork for this sort of situation that Tsuguchi could file, so if anyone ever found out about him breaking the time stream, he wouldn't get arrested for it. Go figure. What are they like? He found himself asking in the quiet hours of the night. They'd come to rest on one of the rooftops of an abandoned, crumbled building on the south side. Huh? Green eyes tilted towards him with a questioning head tilt. The Nomu from your time. Are they stronger than the ones from the USJ? That beast haunted Shota's nightmares even now. He could never forget the strength with which it had snapped his arms and pounded his face into the concrete. He could still feel its phantom hand grinding his bones into dust, salvageable only by the grace of a single quirk from a nurse in the hospital he'd been taken to. Viridian hummed as he thought. In a sense. See, Shigaraki's Nomu were varied and specialized. I'd say the Dark Nomu were the closest ones to the ones from the USJ. They're about as strong as that one, but they aren't nearly so fast, nor could they heal themselves. The fast ones are the White Nomu. He shuddered hard, and Shota wondered if he had specific trauma with those ones. They're so fast, I once saw one catch someone with a speed quirk in seconds. That guy's stupidity is the only reason I'm here now. It didn't feel real. To hold the knowledge was not the same as holding the memories. It felt more like a twisted story that Viridian had told. And sometimes he had to remind himself that this horribly scarred child was actually a man who lived it. It's weird, isn't it? Viridian gave a low, humorless laugh. Some days I actually miss it. I don't miss the apocalypse necessarily, but I miss the simplicity of it all. Survival. You're worth what you can contribute. And I, for the first time in my life, wasn't worthless. Nobody asked about quirks or looked down on me when they realized I didn't have one, because I could fight. I was valuable. You are valuable. Shota put a hand on his shoulder. Help! Viridian! A distant cry had them both rushing off towards the sound. Shota sighed. Tonight would be a long night. Izuku sighed as he went through the motions of class. It wasn't until their heroics period that things started to get interesting. He smirked as just about 20 minutes beforehand, Aizawa called him up and handed him a slip saying Nezu wanted to see him. With an internal snicker, he took the paper and headed over to the staff room. The actual locked staff room, not the one that was open for students to come and grab them at. "Ah, Midoriya, that time already," 13 mused as they moved their rook across the chessboard, making Midnight pout. "Yep," he snickered as he pulled out his vigilante outfit. Since they already knew about his time travel escapades, he figured that he didn't really need to hide. So he was quick to pull out his uniform and put on his much more comfortable vigilante clothing. The teachers in the room didn't comment, but he thought he saw All Might wince. You should talk to Power Loader after school today and have him help you design a new outfit. I think it goes without saying that we'd all feel better if you had more protection than a Halloween costume." 13 sighed as they moved another piece. "Check." "I'm still no less impressed that you managed with nothing more than civilian-level goods this entire time," Midnight laughed softly. "It's astounding that you even managed to run All Might in his hero uniform." She moved another piece. "Uncheck." "It's not a thing," 13 huffed. "I've always wondered, how did you manage to outrun All Might?" Check. All Might himself perked up a bit, listening closely. "It really wasn't that hard. I already knew about his 3-hour time limit from the first run, so I actually needed to do was evade him for 3 hours." Viridian shrugged. "Beyond that, I'm very good at staying hidden. White Nomu hunt by sound. I estimate they've got better hearing than All Might, so I didn't need to worry about him finding me that way. I know he doesn't have heightened smell, and his vision has nothing on the Nomu Scout." "Nomu Scout?" Midnight blinked as she moved another piece. "Uncheck, and yes, that is a thing." "It's not!" 13 scowled beneath their mask as they moved another piece. "Check." "Tiny Nomu, about the size of a chicken. Perhaps they were tiny children that turned initially. Not really sure. They aren't very strong, but they're not nearly as fast as a white Nomu. But they've got sharp little teeth and they travel in packs. But they've got really sharp eyes. I swear they could find someone with a camouflage quirk." He shook his head. "So, anyways, I just needed to keep All Might on the trail I wanted him on, while I sat back and watched the show." "Amazing! I'm not sure I completely understand it, but I've never met anyone as good at disappearing as you." Midnight chuckled as she moved another piece. "Checkmate!" she proclaimed. "Wait, what?" 13 stood, abruptly scanning every inch of the chessboard before sitting back down with a groan. "You were leading me into a trap this whole time?" A couple of the other teachers wandered in. Vlad, King, and Aizawa were arguing about something under their breath as Yamato laughed. "Anyways, that's very impressive," All Might grinned. "Perhaps we should train together sometimes." "Perhaps we should," Viridian smiled as he pulled on his mask, making sure his voice moderator was turned on. "Alright, are the kiddies ready for me?" "I'll never get over that." Aizawa shook his head with a fond smile. "Yes, Heroics 1A is ready for you, Viridian." "Wonderful," he grinned. "Are you coming, Eraser?" Yeah. Just let me refill my thermos." He poured nearly the entire pot of coffee into his thermos before screwing the lid back on and following the vigilante turned hero out of the teacher's lounge. "Got a lesson planned for today?" "You could say that," he grinned. "I've already got things set up with Nezu." "That isn't reassuring." Aizawa took a nice long drink from his thermos, and Viridian idly wondered if he'd spiked it while he wasn't looking. Viridian grinned wider as they approached 1A. Aizawa shot him a look that clearly said, "Stay here," which he had little intentions of listening to. He had a plan, after all. Shinzo Hitoshi wasn't sure what to think when Aizawa of 1A stalked into his general education classroom. A quiet murmur swept through the room as Snipe nodded his head in greeting. "Class, this is Aizawa Shota, homeroom teacher of Heroics Class 1A," Snipe introduced as the students perked up. "Don't beat around the bush," Aizawa glared at Snipe. "Shinzo Hitoshi, come with me." He turned to walk away as Shinzo jolted in shock. Was he in trouble? Had he done something wrong? He didn't waste any time gathering his supplies and dashing out of the room after the hero, ignoring the snickers of his classmate. "Sir?" "You're not in trouble," Aizawa reassured him. "Your performance at the sports festival was impressive enough that you've been offered a spot in Heroics 1A. He almost stopped walking. He felt himself shake. Was this some kind of joke? Aizawa's eyes flickered towards him for a moment. Look, kid, I know you've been given the villain card your entire life. Trust me, so was I. I can erase people's quirks with a look. This isn't a joke or a prank. While you didn't get the chance to show off your quirk as much as you could have, you've showed enough drive and integrity during the festival to warrant your transfer. Plus, we've got a couple of open spots. He gave a yawn. Open spots? I'll explain in a moment, he stated as they opened the doors. Shinzo eyed his new classmates. Everyone, this is Shinzo Hitoshi. He's transferring into 1A as of today. Wait, Aizawa-sensei, Kirishima spoke up, worry etched in his face. What about Midoriya? He's being transferred into Class 1S, a new course. He's now Nezu's private student, as he's been damned a little overqualified for this class, Aizawa explained. There's still some share of class with him, but for the most part he'll be doing his own thing. Shinzo felt a jolt of disappointment that his friend wasn't going to be in his class, but he was overjoyed for Izuku. He couldn't remember ever hearing about Nezu taking on private students. It was quite an honor. He took a seat that Aizawa gestured to his new classmates and gave him smiles and waves. His new homeroom teacher didn't make him state his quirk, which was a new and welcome change from every other homeroom teacher he'd had. I'm sure you've heard that UA is accepting a new staff member. Aizawa started once Shinzo was settled. He's going to be something of a teacher's aide or co-teacher. He'll be directing your heroics class today. You can socialize while I go retrieve him. With that, Aizawa turned and left him in the room. A pink-skinned girl leaned over towards him with a grin. Nice to meet you. I'm Ashido Bnha. My quirk is acid. Hidoshi, wasn't it? Yeah. He blinked as he was accosted with introductions and quirks. Everyone had such amazing quirks. Sure, he'd seen most of them in action at the sports festival, but it wasn't like he'd had an opportunity to sit back and watch. So you're Izuku's friend, huh? Bakugo gave him a courtesy look. Bakugo Katsuki. I've known Izuku since we were born. Shinzo noticed that he was one of the few that didn't list his quirk. Not that he needed to, what with the finale of the sports festival. He sighed. There really wasn't a way around it, was there? My quirk is brainwashing. He glanced around for a moment, before looking up at his classmates. To his surprise, they didn't look disgusted or horrified at all. What a remarkable quirk! Ida grinned, making odd robotic hand-chopping with his hand. Perfect for hostage situations or destructive villains. You won't need to worry about collateral damage as much as me, Ashido laughed. How does it work? Can you just... It's response-based. If I ask a question and someone responds, I can... Yeah. He felt his face heat up. Nobody had ever asked him how his quirk worked with such innocent curiosity before. Well, nobody but Izuku. But he was the outlier. Before anything more could be said, Aizawa returned. Now, as I was saying, you'll have a new part-time teacher. He'll mainly be helping with heroics, but... Really, Eraser, you can just say you don't like to beat around the bush, but you can be awfully winded when you want to be, a voice spoke up from the window. Shinzo was sure it had been closed a moment ago, but now there was a figure calmly lounging on the windowsill as if they weren't several stories off the ground. The guy wore a dark green outfit like a ninja, with a short sword and a black utility belt. Bright green eyes shone out from slits, and Shinzo jolted when he recognized that rather plain mask. You're Viridian! Kirishima cried out in shock. Shinzo could feel the jolt of awe and disbelief travel through the room. Yup, we've got a winner, Viridian chuckled as he hopped down from the window. He was a fair amount shorter than Shinzo thought he'd be, standing about even with, or even shorter than, most of his class. Aizawa gave a fond huff as he rolled his eyes. This, as I'm sure you've already figured out, is Viridian. He'll be your new teacher that I told you about. Yo, good to meet ya! Viridian seemed to be grinning beneath that mask. Time's a-wasting. Since we're already 20 minutes into your class period, since this is my first time teaching you all, let's see how you fare. He tossed a bunch of gym uniforms on the desks, earning a small glare from Aizawa. Put these on and meet me outside. Well, this sounds familiar. Kaminari sighed as everyone got up and started to grab their uniforms. Shinzo followed them out to the heroics gym and changed into the uniform. He'd only worn it once and twice in general education, just for basic stuff in the sports festival. Viridian was already waiting for them with a grin when they arrived. Come on, this way! He led them to an urban setup, much like the heroics entrance exam. Today we'll be playing a game of tag. I'll be it, and you all have to avoid me for as long as possible. You can use your quirks if you'd like, but don't expect me to go easy on you. For extra points you can tag me, Aizawa spoke up. For the purpose of this exercise, the two of us will be wearing these power limiters. It adds half of our body weight to us, which will slow us down significantly. Remember, if I touch you, you're out. Your grenade will be directly proportionate to how long you're able to stay on tag. Tagging Aizawa will grab you 100 home bonus points. He'll still remain in the game if he's tagged, just for fairness' sake. Viridian snickered. As if you believe in fairness. Aizawa shot him a glare. Hey, it's our job to prepare these kiddies for the real world. It won't be as nice as us. Viridian grinned, turning back to the class as Aizawa sighed and headed back into the faux city. Alright, you've got 10-minute head start. You can go ahead and go in now. It didn't take much more to motivate them all to start running. Viridian was known as one of the stealthiest people on the planet. He was so good at staying hidden that they had to give him a hero license because they just couldn't catch him. To top it off, the guy was quirkless, just like Izuku was. Shinzo saw the guy as a true inspiration. Eraserhead was one of his favorite heroes for sure, but Viridian was the one he looked up to the most. Shinzo hid himself in the corner of a darkened room, near enough to the window that he could escape if he needed to, but far enough away from the door not to be caught off guard. He wasn't sure how long it'd been, but it didn't feel like long enough before a voice at the window startled him. Nice hiding spot, Viridian complimented, causing Shinzo to whirl around and back away. But next time, remember that your enemies could use the window too. It's not just a way out, but a way in as well. Shinzo gave a nervous chuckle. What gave me away? Viridian just laughed and signed something with his hands. He must have realized that Shinzo didn't understand him because he sighed with a shrug. In a flash, a moment far too fast for Shinzo to even comprehend, let alone dodge, Viridian had gotten behind him. A firm hand on his shoulder had him groaning. Good attempt, but to someone who knows your quirk, it's a little obvious. I'd recommend getting a voice changer to mimic other people, and see if you can get better responses that way. He gave Shinzo a smirk. As for what gave you away, next time try to hide in an abandoned building. Try to disturb as little dust as possible. You left a little bit of a trail up here. From there, it was just jumping from one window to the next. Don't worry, you hid better than most of your classmates. Shinzo groaned as Viridian pointed him out of the city. He was more than a little surprised to see over half of his class there. After another 10 minutes or so, another person, Asui he thought her name was, joined them. You too, Geru? He found me hiding at the bottom of a stream. He's really too good. Even with those limiters, we can't help to outrun him. Geru. She shook her head with a sigh. He's so manly, Kirishima proclaimed. You know, back when he was still just a vigilante, he saved my brother's life. He'd been kidnapped and Viridian saved him. We've both been dying to meet him ever since. He saved a good friend of mine too, Yajirozu nodded. From what I know, he's working with Aizawa-sensei for a while now. You've got that right, Viridian commented from where he was casually leaning against the entrance of the city. The final student, Koda, surprisingly enough, was trailing behind him. You all did remarkably well considering you have no training in aversion. I do believe All Might has been concentrating on their fighting skills, All Might informed as he rejoined the group. You can't always fight your way out of a situation, and sometimes you need to know how to sneak up on an enemy to deal the real damage. With me, you'll be primarily learning how to hide and evade, which is arguably just as important as knowing how to fight. Shinzo nodded. He could see those skills being invaluable in their chosen field. For now, that just about wraps up today. Gather your things from the classroom and head home. Aizawa gave another yarn. Wait! Kirishima approached Viridian before falling into a deep bow. Last year you saved my brother's life. He was one of those 30 kidnapped kids. He once said you protected him from a bullet. I can't thank you enough for bringing my baby bro home. Viridian looked surprised for a long moment, as if he wasn't used to being thanked so profusely. His gaze softened into a smile. I'm glad he's okay. Take care of your family, yeah? And when you become a hero, Make sure you can reach a hand out to everyone you can. Of course, Kirishima grinned, straightening up. Come on, Eraser, let's head back. Viridian gave a yawn of his own. I'd like to take a nap before our patrol tonight. And that was Chapter 19, The New Teacher of Viridian by Silver Mist Anime Lover. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave some more recommendations as we are on Chapter 19 of 23 chapters. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye!